Freedom Coach Academy, and welcome to another episode of the 9 to 5 Freedom interview series. Today we have Regan Hillyer, and she is a hugely successful 27-year-old multimillionaire, game changer, and she is the founder of Regan Hillyer International. And we definitely want to learn a lot from her because she has been able to create an empire. And if your goal is to create an empire too, she is the best person to help us. How are you again?
Hey Sarah, I'm amazing. Thanks so much for having me on.
I'm so glad. So you're in LA right now.
I am. Yes, I travel a lot, but it's nice. I'm actually here at my place in LA for a good couple of weeks, which is nice.
That's very cool. So tell us about you. Like, who is Regan Hillyer? How did you become this powerful woman? And how were you able to, to get to a seven-figure earner in just, you're just 27 years old.
Yeah. Absolutely. I always share with people, there's obviously a journey. I definitely didn't start out when I was like a child doing what I'm doing. So there's, a background story and a journey, absolutely. So, I'm fortunate enough to do my soul work in the world, and I really help people go within and figure out what is it that they're born to share with the world, and then how do we unleash this and then help them actually build an amazing empire and brand around exactly that. So if I take you guys back to when I was really young, I grew up in Auckland, New Zealand, had an amazing family who really believed in education. They were like, you have to work really hard, go to school, get good grades, follow the system, go to university, right? That's what I did. Yeah, I have a degree in architecture. So I was studying to be an architect because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, right? And there was this moment actually where one of the university lecturers got us to do a visualization and basically picture our life like 20 years out from now as an architect. So I was like, okay, I closed my eyes and I was visualizing my life. And all of a sudden, I literally saw myself in this 9 to 5 job that I didn't really enjoy, working all these crazy hours, not living the lifestyle of my dreams. And I literally felt sick to my stomach. I was like, oh my gosh, like, is this what I'm creating in my life? So I got up, I ran out of that university room, and I rang my dad. And I remember I was crying and I was shaking, and I was like, Dad, I can't do this. It's not me. And to my surprise, he was like, okay, well, you know what? I support you. I want you to be happy. I was like, really? Okay. Right. And Dad said to me, exactly. And Dad's like, okay, Regan, what are you going to do? I was like, I have no idea whatsoever. So that's what threw me into the world of personal development and really trying to figure out, what is my soul purpose and why am I here and how can I create an impact in the world? And I went through this amazing journey of really committing and investing so much in personal development and really doing the work, and all of a sudden, things started to shift in my life, and people started coming to me and really saying, Regan, how are you changing your life? Like, how are you doing this? And I started teaching the closest people to me exactly what I knew. And so that's when I started coaching people one-on-one. I then started speaking so I could impact more people, and then I shifted everything online, which is the brand Regan Hillyer International that you see today, where we have courses and education, predominantly online, and also running some live events as well.
That is very nice. But I imagine that, again, it didn't appear and just happen and you just became successful just like that. I'm sure that you went through some struggle, maybe a learning curve. Tell us more about that.
Oh, totally. Look, there were many. There were definitely many. I've really, I guess, seen it all in terms of the ups and downs of business, of figuring it out. I had a moment, for example, where I literally lost all my money through a bad business partnership that went wrong.
Oh, no.
Right, and I was in Melbourne, Australia. I had like $8 in my bank account. I couldn't pay my rent. That was a super stressful time for me where I had to really figure this stuff out. I then went through another learning curve where I created a really successful offline business, only to realize that it wasn't really my truth and it wasn't the business of my dreams. And although it was successful, I wasn't really doing what I loved in the world. And so I shut that down and I started from scratch and I went online. So, it's easy for people to look at the end result of some people's journey and go, wow, that's so impressive, but they don't see the ups and the downs, right? And the learning curves and all the tears along the way.
Yes, and I'm actually going to ask you a little bit more about that partnership Because I know that a lot of people think that, well, maybe if I get a partner, things will be better.
Right.
But is that always the truth? Is it, what do you think? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, look, it's a really great question. And I think the key is to really understand who you're jumping into business with before you do that. It's very easy, especially if you're starting out, to get really, I guess, hyped up and excited, and it's like, oh yeah, we've got the same vision, this is amazing, we're gonna do the same thing. It's very easy to do that, whereas you really want to kind of put the emotion aside in some respect and actually go, okay, cool, let's just really look at the reality of this. What is our big picture vision? What are we driven by? Who is this person at the core of who they are? Like, what are their values? What really matters to them in the world? And make a decision from a more centered place rather than from a decision of like big dreams and vision, because that's what I did in the past and I didn't really look logically at it.
That's very true, because you get excited, right? You think that this person has the same values, the same thoughts. This person wants to create. Like, we get that, but when it comes to business partnership, it could be a little bit different, right?
Totally, absolutely, yeah. And the key is just to really look at, what drives that person as a person at the end of the day, and really get to know them better, because that's the core of it, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And then the other part, when again, they want to do, and then they have to start over. What do you think is the major problem there, besides having to start over?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that people go and deal with is if they're dropping one business and starting another, or even quitting a job and stepping into business. I think it's fear. I think that's one of the biggest things that people deal with. I remember those feelings like it was yesterday of, man, am I really good enough to do this? Am I good enough to do this on my own? What if I do this and it doesn't work out? What if I do this and I go backwards? There's all this internal stuff that really comes up, and obviously a lot of it isn't fixed through strategy. It's fixed through the internal game and really understanding how to fine-tune your mindset and have you bring the highest version of you to the table. But yeah, I would say that fear is one of the biggest things that people deal with in that situation.
I know that you talk a lot about mindset. What do that mean? Let's start with what do that means, and how can we align our mindset with our goals?
Absolutely. So look, mindset is literally everything. I believe it's the most important thing in business and life. It's 80% psychology, right? So for me, it's the internal wiring. It's the internal game. It's the psychology behind it. It's how are you actually wired internally? What is your belief structure? How do you deal with fear and things like that come up? And I would say, look, if you're looking to fine-tune your mindset and rewire it to succeed, I would suggest that this becomes a daily practice for you. I have a daily mindset practice, a daily routine that I go through, and for me, it's a non-negotiable, because at the end of the day, I know it's the thing that's driving my success through every area of my life.
Oops. It got cut off for a moment.
Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, yes. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything in the background running by any chance?
No, you're perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Did the movie stop for a moment?
No, it's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, because you actually froze.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Where did you lose me?
I think what I'm going to do is probably ask the question again, which
Sure.
I forgot what it was. Your morning routine, your mindset routine, right? That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is your morning routine or your mindset routine? How do you work with that?
Absolutely. So for me, your daily mindset routine, your daily practice, for me, it's not doing one thing in concrete over and over again. It's really tuning in and letting yourself really feel into what does my practice need to look like today. The core of it for me is really connecting with, what is my big picture reality? What am I looking to create? What am I looking to call into my life? And then from there, looking at, well, who do I need to become in order to support that process? So what do I need to believe? Well, what do I need to embody with the higher version of me that I'm bringing to the table? What do I need to move through? What resistance do I have? What fears do I have, which I need to, move through so I can get there with rapid speed? And then I simply ask myself, okay, that higher version of me, what do they do now in order to create massive success? And that's where I set up my day. That's where I go, wow, this version of me will be doing this and this and this and this and this. And that's where the intentional action actually comes from. It's coming from within rather than looking externally for something strategic that I should do in my life and or my business.
I really hope that people are taking notes, and if they're not, I hope that they go back and really write down those questions, because
Right.
I think it's very important that you ask yourself that, because first of all, it set up your day, and then it also set up your goals in
Right.
general, right? Because if you have an intention and you wake up with an intention every day of what you want to achieve, definitely you will achieve more. So
Yeah.
and with that, I have a very important question for you. What do you think it takes to become a 7-figure earner? Because I know that you have done it, and I'm sure that a lot of people would like to break through that. They would
Right.
like to achieve that.
Absolutely. So I really believe becoming a 7-figure earner doesn't happen by chance. And yet to find someone who goes, I don't know how it happened. I just woke up and then it was 7 figures just sitting there, right? So the first thing really is making a decision, right?
Okay.
Making a decision that, hey, I'm actually going to create 7 figures a year. I am going to receive this. This is done. This is a decision, right? You then need to take massive action. I mean, it's just not going to happen if you just sit around and do the same things that you're doing. You really need to take massive action. You need to go all in with it, right? I'm yet to find someone who makes the decision but then is kind of not sure about it moving forward. They make the decision and then they commit to it and they run. And the third thing that I would suggest that people do is find a mentor. I didn't get there by myself. I'm not self-made in that respect. I've worked with so many different mentors, so many different coaches. I've found people who are at the end point where I wanted to be, and I've simply invested with them, learned from them, and said, tell me what to do. And then I've been very good at being obedient and listening and going and doing exactly what they've told me to do, right? So I'm very coachable. I'm the biggest student in the world, and that never stops. There's a next level which we're taking this business to right now, and same thing, working with coaches, working with mentors, working with high-level team members, and actually implementing what they suggest I do. So that's the core of it. It's really following those 3 key things.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And you know what? The last one is very important, and I see that most of all the experts that I have been able to talk to that are participating in this event, they all have mentors, they all have coaches, and sometimes they don't even have just one.
Right.
They have multiple coaches in different areas in their life.
Exactly.
And that's why they have been able to create this amazing business and amazing life above all.
Exactly, because that's a trap people fall into. They think, I want to create the business and the money, so I'll get a mentor for the business and the money. But if you're not working on you, if you're not working on every other part of your life, you can't elevate just one part of yourself. Like you can't just elevate your arm and expect the rest of you to move. Like you have to work on all of you. So you're right, it's so important to be intentional through every area of your life.
Yes. So for those people that are in a full-time job right now and they're looking to create something, and their time is very limited, what do you think they need to do in order to start? What is their starting point?
Definitely. So very similar to what we just talked about, which is interesting because we talked at a high level of generating 7 figures. But again, if you're in a 9-to-5 job and you're looking to get out and start your own business, you need to make a decision. Firstly, it's never going to happen if you're not sure about it, right? If you're dancing around and jumping from left to right, you've got to decide, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. You then need to find a mentor, find a coach, find someone who can strategically show you what you need to do in terms of the inner work, but also the external work of actually getting it right. And the third thing that I would do is, personally, I don't recommend that you just quit your job and jump straight in. Okay, if you do that, now I'm not saying it's not possible, you can do that and it does work for some people, but for the majority of people, that's going to put you under stress, that's going to put you in a place of fear, of needing to make something work, a place of scarcity. It's putting a lot of pressure on yourself. So what I would recommend you do is simply start to cut down in your full-time role if possible, right? Drop one day or drop a few hours a week, free up that time, and then intentionally use that time to build your dream until eventually, all of a sudden, what you're generating from your dream in terms of income and fulfillment is surpassing what you're earning in your 9 to 5. And all of a sudden, when you have that gap, that's freedom, right? That's when you can go, okay, I can release that job, or I can cut down to 2 days a week, or I can completely say goodbye. And you're coming from a place where you're looked after, where you're supported, where you're secure, and where you're confident, rather than creating from a space almost of drama and freak out mode of going, I have to make this work because I have no other options.
Yes, that's actually a great advice, and definitely a lot of people should definitely follow that, because it's a lot of people get excited about I'm gonna create a business, and they don't really think about the logistic and the risk that a business can create, and the stress, like the stress that a business can create. So it's better to transition little by little on.
Totally. And look, you just have to do the work at the end of the day. You know, we live in a society where people are so used to instant gratification. They're so used to just picking up their phone and clicking an app and saying, I want food and I want it now, and then it appears in 20 minutes. We're so used to this. We're conditioned to everything being instant. So people unconsciously have the same thing with business. They're like, oh, you know, I'll just start a business, or I'll just go online and I just expect it all just to click into place. It's like, well, hang on. Like, it's going to take some work. It's a learning curve. You might have to fall down a few times and then get back up, right? And this is what separates successful people. It doesn't mean that doesn't happen to them. Their capacity to simply move through all of that at a faster rate is greater than someone who goes, oh, that's too hard, it's not for me, I'll just stay on my job.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why a lot of people give up, right?
Right.
From trying. Absolutely. Would you recommend people to, what I was going to say, would you recommend, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut this part.
Yeah.
Let me see. Do you think, this is what I'm going to ask. Okay,
cool.
One second. Do you think that there's still opportunities for people to create businesses, for people to become entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's enough room for everyone to rise. I think there's enough room for everyone to rise to the top. I really think there is. You know, the world is growing at such a massive rate, and there's opportunities everywhere. Now, in saying that, that doesn't mean that everyone should go and do it, because not everyone's cut out for it, not everyone's born for it, not everyone is willing to do the work, and that's okay. You know, some people love their job and they're happy in their job, and that's awesome. Some people deep down inside are unsatisfied and unfulfilled and know that they're put here to do some really big things in the world. And if that's the case, I encourage you to listen to that. And yes, there's absolutely enough room for you.
That is great. A lot of people, unfortunately, they have that employee mentality. Even when they have the entrepreneurship inside of them, they still have that employee mentality. So they need to learn how to switch that mentality, right? From employee to entrepreneur. Yeah. Especially when it comes to getting an income every month.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think? Does that happen when you're an entrepreneur?
Totally. Yeah. And you're totally right. And here's the biggest trap that I see people fall into when they're transitioning from job to entrepreneur, or solopreneur even, is that in a 9 to 5, they're generally in a mindset of trading time for money, right? So they have this mentality of, I work 5 hours and I receive money for those 5 hours. Whereas it's funny, with entrepreneurship, it doesn't work like that, okay? When you're working for yourself, you don't get paid unless you create value. It's that simple. So it's a mindset flip from receiving time for money for value for money. Now, yeah, that can be crazy and that can be scary, and it might mean you have to put in 10 hours and not get paid for any of them. But if you can work out how to add more value in the marketplace, all of a sudden your income is uncapped. Whereas if you're working in a time for money model, well, okay, you can only work so many hours in the day, and if you're crazy and you don't sleep, then that's your maximum, right?
Yes.
There is no more. The only way to scale it up is to simply increase what you're being paid per hour, which often you're not in control of, okay? And even still, there's generally a cap on that. So when you come and play in the entrepreneurship space, it's interesting. It's like there's more risk. You have to do a little bit more work. You've got to definitely put more on the line. But if you can create more value, you can receive in abundance more.
And I understand, obviously, a lot of people that are in careers right now, even, mid to high level management, they have great skills. How do you think they can identify the skills that they have in order to transfer them into a business?
Absolutely. Well, I would just sit down, and if I was that person, I would start journaling about it. I would write about it, and I would just ask myself, what am I absolutely brilliant at? What is my skill set? And generally people might start with things that they're certified in or they've got experience in. They might write down all of their qualifications, but I would also encourage them, if they're looking to step into entrepreneurship, to go, well, what is outside of that? What am I absolutely brilliant at, which I'm not even seeing right now because I'm so good at it and I'm so automatic. For example, I've helped many amazing moms who were like in corporate with whatever skill set, but they realized, I'm good at that, but it's not my dream, it's not what I love, but I am an amazing mom, and I would love to help other moms be absolutely incredible and lift them up and inspire them to create change in their families. So that's an example of someone that's come through, shifted out of the 9 to 5 into trading value for money, tapping into a skill set and a gift which was totally unconscious before because they didn't have a certification for it, right?
Wow. I gotta say, Regan, you might be 27, but your knowledge and your skill as a coach is amazing, and that's why you have been able to get to where you are.
Thank you.
And enjoy the life that you really that you have dreamed of. So because I know that you love to travel, and you still, your business still functions no matter from where you are.
Absolutely. And again, guys listening in, don't think I've figured it all out myself. Result of coaching, result of mentoring, result of listening and being obedient and really doing the work.
Yes. I think that's very important, being coachable.
Right.
You can have all the coaches in the world, but if you don't follow through, then what's the point? Right?
Exactly, yes.
Wow. Thank you so much. And what do you have for the audience today?
So I have an amazing gift for everyone tuning in. It is my book. It is called Be Your Brand, and it really shows you how to unleash your message that you're born to share with the world, and then how to develop, launch, and accelerate your brand. So it's really the full system around exactly how I did that and how anyone watching or reading rather can do the same. Yeah.
That's definitely gold. I hope that people go to the link that is in your bio, and they actually go there and take advantage of that, because like you said, you are providing all the steps that you took in order to build that brand. And if you are a 7-figure earner, I definitely gonna try to follow those steps for sure.
Yeah.
To the T.
Right. Awesome.
Thank you so much. So now I'm going to ask you a few questions just to know a little bit more about Regan, the person.
Sure.
Right? Not the mentor, the coach, and in business. I'm gonna ask you just a few things about you.
Cool.
So the first thing that I want to ask you is, what are you reading right now?
What am I reading? Okay, now this is a really interesting thing. I don't read books like a normal person.
Okay.
So I very rarely sit down and get a book on my Kindle and read it from start to finish. What I do is I dip in and out of multiple different books at multiple different times. So what I'll do is I'll literally pick up my Kindle and I will spin and I'll go, that one, that one, that one. So I am constantly diving in and out of like 10 different books.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anyone that any of the books that you can, okay, this is the last thing I read.
Yeah, I think the last thing I really dug into was Think and Grow Rich. That's a book which I have read on and off for 10 years now.
Yes,
and I swear, every time I picked that book up, I was like, this was not there last time I read it, right? Because I wasn't ready to actually receive it. That's one of definitely my go-to books.
I think, and I completely agree, I think it's a must read. I think people should read it at least once a year.
Totally.
And because of the same reason, because I went through it too. I read it this year already, and there were some parts that I'm like, okay, I don't remember that before.
Yeah.
Or now I understand it completely different in a total different way.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, it's pretty cool.
Exactly.
And what have been your best adventure?
I feel like my whole life is an adventure, to be completely honest. My best adventure, well, definitely my adventures in business. I mean, I love that. I love the journey and the transition, and I really love the ups and downs and learning from it. I love traveling, so I feel like every time I travel to somewhere new, it's totally an adventure. I'm very much someone who loves living in the moment, who loves not being super planned. So I might know where I'm going or where I'm staying, but from there, I very much. If my team didn't book my flights and my accommodation, I would not have any. I'd be like, oh, it'll all be perfect, I'll figure it out. I'm the most, in the moment, unorganized person when it comes to travel. I feel like every single time I travel somewhere new, I'm looking at that place with new eyes if I've been there before, and very much up for an adventure wherever I am.
Nice. So there has not been like a place that you say, oh my gosh, this is like I want to come here every time. Every place has his own place in your heart.
Yeah, I feel like every place has beauty. There are definitely some key places. So Bali was definitely that for me about 4 years ago. The first time I went to Bali, I was like, wow, like I want to spend so much time here. And I did. I lived pretty much in Bali for 2 to 3 years and traveled a little bit, but was basically based there. I had the same thing with LA when probably about a year ago, I was like, oh, I love the creativity. I love being in Hollywood. I love the energy here. Costa Rica recently, I've been like, I love the nature, this is amazing. So those are probably the top 3 places that have called me the most.
That's good to know. And if you were a superhero, who would you be and why?
I think I'd be Catwoman, just because it's really fun.
All right. Yeah, it does sound fun. That's pretty cool. All right. And maybe one more question. I think I asked you about your morning routine already. Which human being has made the best impact in your world?
Oh, there's so many. I have so many amazing mentors, so many amazing people in my life. If I was to pick one, it would be my dad. I have amazing childhood memories of my dad saying, you can do anything that you put your mind to, and things
nice.
and things like, Regan, all that matters at the end of the day is your happiness. So you just need to make sure you look after that no matter what you do. And I really have his voice in my head constantly. And he still says those things to me, but obviously it was so amazing to have him and this amazing father leadership basically from such an early age. So yeah, hugely inspired by my dad, absolutely.
That is great. That is a great inspiration. Good to know.
Yeah.
So it was great to know all these things about you. And again, thank you so much for sharing all this valuable information. I really hope that, again, that everybody that is here, our audience, that was able to really take notes. And if not, go back and, I know that you spoke a little bit fast when you were saying like some of the questions and some of the tips.
Right.
But they are very important. So if you didn't capture them, make sure to go back and listen to them.
Totally.
So, thank you so much for your time. And I hope that you enjoy your rest of the day. And it will be until, the next episode of the 9 to 5 Freedom Interview Series.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Hey, an honor. Talk to you soon.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So what do you think?
Perfect. It was awesome. Did you get what you needed?
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
Yay.
it was